perhaps they have something different, the same as what Alpha did against AHQ.
Well, let's go ahead and load on into Champion Select for our first game between Hong Kong Attitude and Berjaya. Hong Kong are going to be on the blue side, red side to the Dragons, as we start things off with the set ban from HKA.
It's going to be a different ban for this series in particular. For Berjaya, though, perhaps Callista would be taken off at this, or maybe a Varus actually, as Rek'Sai is going to be removed off of the table.
Oh, I could see, as the Dragons are going to take their time with this one. They're actually going to go ahead and ban out the Bard. So Wing has had some decent Bard play. And Bard itself has been kind of a niche pocket pick toward the PCS as a whole. It's been, I think, currently sits at an 89 win percent rate when it's on 12 games. So it's been a rather popular pick for when teams want to be aggressive in the bot lane. Zoe, though, also being banned out here away from Minji, as that has been always a go-to. And man, we're seeing a lot of just unique bans coming out targeting toward players, as that's going to allow the Senna and Callista to make it through the first draft.
And the big question is whether or not K2 would still default towards that Ezreal, but now because of this Misfortune pickup, maybe Senna. HKA is still deciding, and looks like they're going to settle with that Senna. So Berjaya, would you want to get the Tom Kench Callista in this rotation? Or perhaps maybe a Taric that has been popular yesterday?
Well, you're already screaming from HKA, you know, they want to go for that later part of the game. They could try and match with a Callista. Like you mentioned, you could always go ahead and try and pick up the Kench as well. Try and take that away and deny it from the Senna. They're opting to go into the Varus, so I think if you pair that with the Kench, that's usually the go-to play here, but they might want to try and get jungle priority, even though the jungle pool hasn't been really hammered here in the bans.
Yeah, most likely are they hoping, or rather are they expecting that perhaps Polo will pick that Trundle up? I mean, he has picked Trundle 4 times in the entirety of the PCS, but I guess there's still a lot of respect, as if that's gonna be a locked Maokai, this is actually from Nova Esports' composition last time. A Senna Maokai.
It could still be put into the top lane. I think the biggest question is whether or not we're going to see now the Kench get locked in. Because if that's the case, if not the case, then Berjaya Dragons can get that on the next rotation here, as it's going to force HKA to have to pick up their jungle because they've already shown it. As now they're hovering toward that Sejuani.
Oh, this is... Okay, if they do lock this in, this is the exact composition where they managed to get a level 3 dive. Unfortunately, that was on red side though, so it will be a little bit difficult to try and gank at bot, assuming this Maokai is really indeed going to the support role. For Berjaya though, will you lock in the Tom Kench, deny, pair that up with at least for K2 to have him have a safe lane? And that could be the answer.
With that Kench still available, I think that's going to be the play here, though, as Chili won't be on something like his Nautilus. Instead, is going to be playing bodyguard duty with K2, trying to keep him safe in the lane, as well as the later game team fights.
And we're heading over to our second rotation of bans, as for HKA, they're still lacking their mid laner, and possibly top, depending where this Maokai is going. And for HKA, as they're looking into what else they can remove against Minji. Minji had a phenomenal game on the Kiana before. And, well, Minji also defaults back to the usual mid laners, usual mages rather, which is, you know, Syndra is still open for the taking, LeBlanc is open for the taking. There's still a lot on the table.
Sitting here, taking their time, as that's also going to be the Silas getting banned out. Again, another one of those kind of pocket picks for Jimyon, has been one of the only other players to play that in the league. Mordekaiser, contested between the two squads in the top side, being taken away. Now for Berjaya, what do they want to try and lock down? You're going to go for another mid lane ban and really try and squeeze the pool of Jimyon if you try and take away something that's been popular. Maybe the Corki, as that's going to be banned out.
Jimyon can be a little bit flexible when it comes to playstyle, either maybe more on that heavy dive or that safe backline burst mage. There's still a lot open, actually. Zoe's taken out, but Cinder and LeBlanc, I'm expecting at least perhaps either of the two would pick that up. Akali is actually open as well, although we've never actually seen some of them play this just yet. Meanwhile, for Berjaya, what is your next pick?
maybe looking toward their top lane. They want to try and get something for Ozzy, and instead of going Aatrox, they decided, all right, we're going to go with the Ornn here. So a lot of front line, a lot of safety for this Varus to look to carry into the later part of the game, possibly here, as that gets locked in. And that's a bit scary, considering the fact you don't really have necessarily a lot of consistent DPS other than the Varus. So maybe we look to see what they want to try and go in for the mid lane. Let's take a look back over toward Hong Kong Attitude, though. What do they wish to round out this composition with? You did mention the Akali could be a favor if they want to try and dive in onto this Varus in the late game, or do they want to try and hit this Wombo combo, Cataclysm, Hero's Entrance? Nah, they're going to go back to the Akali.
And with this final lock-in for HKA, we get to finally see if this Maokai is indeed going towards top side. And if they do lock this in, will 3Z be on the Akali? And then Jimian will be on the Galio? And that is going to be a Maokai support? I am curious.
Oh no, they go back to the Lucian mid lane, which we've seen a couple times from Jimian. That still does mean, though, we're going to likely see 3Z on the Akali. It could also be a Lucian top, actually, into that Ornn pickup, especially if a Syndra is going to be shown.
Exactly, and I feel like this is perfect. And we're going to be expecting early game dives. I do believe I've seen this composition before, again, coming from Nova at the early stages of the PCS, where they really heavy dove bot side, which is going to be perfect. I feel like the plan was they've been hovering at that Galio pick for some time. It doesn't matter though, it's still going to be the same plan in mind, but you know, Jimian does go over with that Lucian, and I'm excited to see this one.
All right, so we're not going to get too funky unless we're going to see a lane swap, which is always a possibility here, but 3Z going to be on the Akali. This is a bit of a change-up from what we saw during the regular season. Usually it was always put onto the tank duty. Sometimes we'd see him on a gangplank, but now bringing out the Akali here in their first game against Berjaya, where unfortunately there is no second chances. If you lose this series, you're knocked out. You got to watch the rest of the playoffs from home.
Yeah, and with this, again, you're right, it is going to be that final stand, and that's the reason why with this do or die attitude when it comes to the draft, they're pulling every single trick up their sleeves, and now that solution in the mid lane, 3Z, for the first time in a while that we're seeing him on this heavy carry assassin with this Akali. We'll have to see how this pans out, because again, when we look back at the round robin stages, it was Berjaya convincingly winning that 2-0 against HKA in a dominating fashion.
Yeah, the round robin didn't go in favor of HKA for this matchup, and like you mentioned, this could be easily a quick game coming out here from Berjaya. They do like to play rather aggressively, and they were able to, I believe, heavy-handedly take down HKA in their matchups. At least I think the second one was a pretty quick one. So for HKA, what are they going to be able to do here? This requires them to actually be pretty proactive with this composition. You're wanting to try and jump in onto the backline if you're with 3Z on this Akali. You also have Jimian that, as long as he's able to stay safe and away from that Syndra of Minji, he should be able to get a decent amount of damage with the Lucian. It's a bit of a mix-up coming out from Hong Kong Attitude.
Yeah, especially when we were mentioning that they like to play the 35 to 40. All their victories came from 35 to 45 minute games, but at the same time, they're opting for more of that 5v5. But with this composition, this is definitely not that 5v5. They really want to win this game early, get these lanes ahead, especially with Jimian and as well as 3Z at top side. So we'll see whether or not HK is able to pull this off.
Well, we're going to go ahead, load on into the Rift for our first game between Hong Kong Attitude and Berjaya Dragons. Seeing 3Z on his Akali, Jimian going to be putting out the Lucian. And we got ourselves a Maokai support once again from Wing. It's a bunch of new new flavors when it comes to our spicy pot of action. That is the PCS as we load on into the Rift.
For HKA, this is definitely another change of identity, I suppose, when they manage to set foot towards the playoffs. Again, this is completely a lot of new picks that we've never seen before from the round robin, and I'm excited to see if we're going to have another Game 3 in this particular series.
I don't know if I want another Game 3. It'll be a late night here, to say the very least. 4.5 hours for our first series. Getting into the second series, though. I'm interested if we're actually going to go the distance here. We've had a lot of games during these playoffs. I think we've only had two 2-0s so far. Everything else has gone the distance in their games. Make it 3. Which
is a good sign.
There's been 3. There was the Talent series
Yeah.
against Nova. There was the Nova series against HKA, and then there was the Berjaya series against Machi.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, it's a good sign that these, top teams that managed to survive the round robin is just quite neck and neck, despite the gap in between the rankings. But now it is 3Z, who's on the Akali. Triple teleport for Berjaya Dragons. And with that said, the Berjaya Dragons, a Malaysian-owned organization, they are the shining hope that is left to represent the former LMS, or LST region rather, as HKA knocked out Liab already in towards that last tiebreaker that they had to fight.
Out of the playoffs, you can say that.
Out of the playoffs.
They don't get to play any more League of Legends. And
you
know what?
And then Nova, too.
Yeah, and Nova. And you know what? I'm going to put a little asterisk for Berjaya Dragons. So you say, shining light for the former LST. Reminder, this organization wasn't in the LST. The only player that was actually in it was Chile. Everybody else used to play over in Taipei. So I'm gonna argue maybe this isn't necessarily a Malaysia squad. Malaysian squad. It's like how you have
owned organization.
Yeah, it's like how you have Team Flash over in the VCS. It's, I believe, associated with some Singapore orgs. So they were able to find a victory there. So, there's a little bit of cross in between the regions.
Yeah, there's a little bit asterisk, but still.
Are you saying they want to get revenge for their fallen comrades?
Yes, because
there you go.
HKA has managed to kick out, Nova and Liab in this tournament so far. So it's like one of those things where, as a fan, we'll take what we can.
We'll take the technicalities while we can. All right.
Oh,
they might be the bane of some of these teams. Holo, though, looking for possibly a play up toward the top side of the map. Enzo is going to spot him out, though, as he's doing the Krug, so both junglers know where each other is. 3Z, still sitting at about half health. Maybe wants to try and get a little more poke in onto the Ornn before they really go to that play. Nice knock-up, though, coming out from Ozzy. And Enzo could make his way over, but decides not to, as he wants to try and contest the scuttle that Holo has already started up, and I believe that is going to be the smite already coming down here, but still getting rather aggressive. Has that pressed the attack, so Holo has to respect him as he backs off.
Yeah, Holo managed to get that smite in. Unfortunately, not able to get at least the chomp smite, as Holo just really wanted to get that control, considering that it seems Enzo will make his way down instead of over this Dragon Scuttler.
So he does get that one as well, so he's able to at least trade back one of the Scuttle Crabs. He's not going to feel left out. Does give a little bit of control over there towards Berjaya Dragons on the bot side of the map, as Chile and K2 are letting some of the minions die out here. I'm interested to see how Wing is going to play this, because he actually opted in for the teleport as well, which is more in line with what we've seen last time we saw a Maokai support with the Senna. You're not really going for any kills in the lane. I don't see any exhaust, though, on the side of HK, and that's kind of a bit of a worry, especially when you're going up against a Syndra as well as a Varus, where, if Minji's able to get online and able to snowball out of control, what you're going to be able to really do once he gets his, outplay button in the form of his ultimate.
Yeah, the point-and-click outplay, or rather, our ultimate, rather. But now that you mentioned the bot side of the map, a Wing with that teleport, 3Z might be a little bit too close to danger. Wing having that teleport is having to match Chile's level 6 on the Abyssal Voyage. And considering that Berjaya has triple teleports as well, so that is going to help out a little bit in matching that global pressure, especially at the later stages of this game.
And we already see 3Z. He's going to have to go back to the base as he's been poked out a little bit too much by Ozzy. And even though he is energy-based, he still has to, keep his health bar up and loaded. So, nonetheless, still has a small little advantage in the CS department, but that will crash back into the Ornn. So, Ozzy not really falling in behind.
At least there's no Azir to push down the to push out the Akali, although Minji has the Scatter the Weak to sort of scare away 3Z, or stop 3Z at least into diving too hard. But now Minji does have priority over this lane, so therefore has more control over Dragon and even laying a little bit of vision towards the bottom parts of the map.
Well, here we go. Enzo wants to at least start up the Dragon, it appears, as Berjaya do have a decent amount of push down in the bot lane. Minji also should be able to push back the wave. He is actually sticking down toward the bot side river. Jimmy does have level 6, has culling available, might just jump on in, trying to see whether or not Minji will go for the play. Flash for a flash here, the flag drag combo does not land. Culling, though, is landing every shot, and almost able to take him down. Jimmy actually had flash available if he wanted to try and finish off that kill.
Saved by the minion wave here. Hollow making his way to around this jungle. I thought it was an attempt to perhaps maybe see if they can catch Minji going back somewhere, but it is going to be a deep control ward near that red buff to keep track of Enzo, as it's both junglers still not level 6 just yet.
So a bit of a scare there in the mid lane, and I'm actually shocked Jimmy didn't try and go and finish off that kill. Maybe he was afraid that the Scatter Weak might be back off cooldown and didn't want to get stunned up underneath the tower. Nonetheless, it does force out the teleport out of the Syndra, so that means he gets a free back into the lane and won't be falling not too far behind when it comes to CS.
Free back to lane. Jimian also has complete summoner spell, so that will come in handy for sure. Meanwhile, Enzo, though, will get this red buff before Hollow is able to spot this out. So at this point, Enzo will deny this one away from Hollow.
Yeah, it doesn't really know that that's been taking place here. They're maybe trying to look for a play down towards the bot side of the map, but meanwhile, Enzo's just going to go ahead and clear out the jungle, and for Hollow, that's a feels bad in particular, because unfortunately for him, I don't think he gets level 6 off his Krugs here, which means he won't have that for the upcoming gank if he really wants to. Also means he's going to be a bit slow. He now realizes, okay, Trundle's been actually taking my jungle, so Jimmy, with that knowledge to him, may try and at least help him out, but has to clear out the vision and is getting slowed down here.
Yeah, and he has in no way in the position to actually exchange red buffs right now. So that is definitely a little win for Enzo. Especially he wanted to attempt and get this Rift Herald at least, but unfortunately, you know, the teleport actually coming from Wing.
Wing has teleport, doesn't have level 6 though. You gotta remember that. Without the level 6 on the Maokai, it's not necessarily the massive CC bot, does at least have single target when it comes to it. Gets a nice stun there on the side of Minji. It's going to be a 50-50. Rift Herald, though, is secured over on the side of Hong Kong Attitude, as it is stolen away there by Hollow. Now 3Z, though, has to get out of dodge, and that's going to be first blood as they just collapse in on Eminem.
Nicely done by the side of HKA still, though, for stealing away that Rift Herald. And that is going to be an exchange for a kill, as Berjaya Dragon gets first blood.
So, Rift Herald is at least secured by Wing on the Maokai. So they'll have that for the bot lane if they want to try and hard push in, maybe try and get some more turret plating over onto the Senna. Let's take another look here at how this all started. Nice double scatter at the weekend. Unfortunately, when you go into a choke point against an Orin, it's just a bad time.
And I think the timing of the Scatter of the Week, unfortunately, wasn't exactly on point, because after the stun expired, you still saw Hollow get the flag and drag, even though he was already stunned from earlier. So that is the reason why the stun, the steal was possible for HKA. But yeah, at least they managed to get a return kill, and that is going to be going over to Enzo. Seeker's Arm Guard being that first item just to a little bit more protection against Jimian. And even already consumed all of the dematerializers already just to match the scary clear coming from Jimian in the form of the autos.
You see, though, Enzo is getting tracked through his jungle as Eminem and Wing were able to get a nice push in on the bot side of the map and get some vision down into the jungle. We're going to have Ocean Drake spawning in about 1 minute. So we'll see how HKA try and respond to this, as the vision's going to get cleared out by Eminem. Berjaya's bot lane is going to get pushed in underneath the tower, and if they really wanted to, they could try and go into a Rift Herald push to try and really get priority, as They're going to have to wait for the next wave to start crashing forward. Top lane, Breezy. Just a quick trade there. Ozzy's able to continue to find these in his favor.
Yeah, has been winning the trade so far as long as Ozzy gets that first initiation, first knockup. This could be a gank coming from Holo though, but Wing is already around half HP. With Dragon spawning in a few seconds, at least for Wing, he has his ult available, and that would be just the perfect setup when it comes to the objective fights. And you pair that up with Holo, and you use Jimian on the solution as that buffer, so you can wait a little bit, have that reliable source of damage at this early point of the game. If it's not enough, you have 3Z for the assassination, and Eminem for the heals as well.
Meanwhile, he also got K2, who's just going to continue to just try and scale up while he can on the forest. Doesn't have the Bork completed just yet. Maybe you want to try and get that before the dragon fight, but unfortunately it has spawned. So for Berjaya, they're going to have to go with what they can. Enzo just acting as a ward himself. Scuttle is going to go down, spotted out though by the standard. We'll see here though. Berjaya won't really have a good pressure in that bot lane as it's going to get pushed back immediately by HKA. If they really wanted to, Chili and K2 could go back to the base and then use the Voyage to get back toward the Dragon if they really want to contest this. Seems like neither side, though, really keen on starting this up right away.
Yeah, Berjaya has a lot of control vision covered over this Dragon Pit, but unfortunately, just as you mentioned, HKA does have priority over at bot side, so the vision that they've just installed will be cleared out. Minji is about to have his teleport, but there's not a lot of teleport spots to go.
Yeah, unfortunately there, you have to deal with the fact that the Maokai does have ultimate available, so it looks like Berjaya are just fine giving up at least one dragon. There's going to be a dragon apiece, and we're going to have Infernal Soul for our first game between the two squads.
I feel like the next fight would definitely be over at the Rift Herald area. Considering that they want to, for HKA at least, either want to bolster Holo, or Jimian rather, or 3Z in the top side of the map. Maybe get that first blood tower. See if they can funnel a little bit more plates before the plates expire. But Jimian running out of mana at this point with Minji taking control, so that's gonna weaken Jimian a little bit, at least for this portion.
Getting poked out, but he's able to at least stay in the lane. He got himself a little bit of life steal. Look at this, though. Enzo's looking for a dive. Wing does put down the sapling, so he'll get a little bit of a warning. It looks like Minji doesn't feel comfortable trying to go for it himself. Instead, you see that the Lucian's backing in mid lane, and they want to try and get a hard shove in and maybe get some turret plating over onto the Syndra.
And meanwhile, for Jimian, those summoner spells have been untouched throughout the first 10 minutes of the game, as Enzo has been focusing definitely on other lanes and power farming first before anything else, as to be prepared for the next objective. As we can see, the timer is already ticking for the Rift Herald, and I feel like that would be the next objective for, especially for Berjaya Dragons to take.
We saw K2 has finished off his fork. Meanwhile, mid lane, here we go. Already very aggressive coming out for Jimmy. And speaking of forks, he's got his own complete. Minji is able to get himself back to safety, though, out of the range of the culling, so can't get the solo kill there in mid lane, and not really able to get enough pressure to force him to go back. As goes back into this farm game, and hello, Wing was able to get a kill onto the Varus. K2 awkwardly caught out of position. That's a first.
I feel like it was a late port back, where Minji, actually, and K2 had to port, but unfortunately, maybe they were sitting on a ward. Oh, it was. So it was porting back, and unfortunately, that is the usual story that we see, where the bot lane would go back, but unfortunately, they're separated, and the support goes home first.
All right. Second Rift Herald, though. Holo able to secure, not able to get away, though, just yet. That's going to force a flash out of him. Call the Force God lands onto 3Z. 3Z now has to get a little bit tricky with his pathing. Meanwhile, bot lane, turret is taken here by Wing on this Maokai, who's finished off his Sunfire Cape, so he just has that natural push in. Meanwhile, though, Berjaya still not slowing down, it seems, but Eminem's going to rejoin on toward this fight. A nice secure coming out from Holo, is able to deny that one away from Enzo. Still looking for the hunt. Meanwhile, top lane, knock up onto the Akali. 3Z, though, is just fine. That's going to be now a teleport here from Wing as Berjaya wanted to go for a siege.
And so far, HKA has been winning these exchanges around the map, getting the first tower, as well as getting a sneaky kill out from K2, therefore rendering the last Rift Herald fight not to be contested at all by Berjaya because they lack their AD carry and were not in the position to do so. And they do at least have that Trundle, perhaps when it comes to these fights, to maybe soften up Wing, especially when he's getting most of the gold early before Eminem finishes his support item. Unfortunately, this is not the usual path to victory that we've seen from Berjaya just yet, and HKA is just winning at least when it comes to the objectives.
Yeah, I don't know. We must have not got the memo of all these teams deciding to play very slow in our first game every night. This is looking more like an HKA game than it is a Berjaya game, as Enzo and K2 are thinking about maybe heading down towards the spot lane, try and catch out Jimian. Hollow, though, is nearby to provide some safety, and we're just going to go back to the wave clear as we're going to have Infernal spawning in about 40 seconds.
And we did mention, okay, first item's already completed at least for K2 on this Bork. Still not yet for Eminem on the Glaive. But at least there's a stopwatch for that additional safety just in case Enzo and Ozzy are just too close to the AD carry.
There we go. Scuttle's going to get secured by Hollow, almost taken away there by the piercing arrow of K2. 15 seconds on Infernal. Both squads, 5 members in for the mid lane. Ozzy is on top of a ward right there, and that's information that he's probably not wishing to give away. Now it's just going to show himself, though. And there we go, Chain of Corruption immediately onto Wing. Wing, though, gets himself to safety. That's a lot burned! Why are you trying to use all your ultimates onto the tree of all people? Hollow, though, able to get taken down as they find the kill with Minji. Jimnin, 3Z, and Eminem still alive. Carries her up, but no jungle means Berjaya can go ahead and take the Infernal.
Yeah, for Berjaya, they are quite low. Not a lot of poke on their side, though. That's the reason why 3Z is gonna get hit by a pillar. Berjaya.
Still trying to go for this. Why are you trying to chase down 3Z at the moment? K2 is just going to get tagged, and this is giving some time for Hollow to actually respawn, and Berjaya aren't actually going to be able to go for this Infernal without having to risk the fight. Again, coming out from HKA as Jimian is waiting nearby. It's a 4v5 technically, but Berjaya not confident at all to maybe go for this fight.
This is interesting, because normally, okay, jungler down, usually would go for the dragon immediately. I think they wanted to get at least another extra kill to make sure that, since they're quite low, but the exchange was unfortunate because Rift Herald timing onto a dragon as well. So HKA, this is actually pretty wow for them.
There we go. HK are able to pick up the Infernal even though they lost the Jarvan off that ensuing fight, and we're taking a look here. They blew a lot onto Wing right away.
Yeah, and even though they managed to eliminate Hollow immediately because he was the one trapped in that Cataclysm, and Minji used the unleashed power rather. So this is, that was the plan though. Get the jungler towards that dragon. Unfortunately, they were not comfortable since most of them are low. And now HK managed to almost break mid and then get a dragon for themselves. That is a pretty good win, if you ask me.
There we go. Is going to be Infernal secured there by HKA. While we see now them looking to position to ward. He's trying to get a siege in onto mid lane as we just go back into a bit of our ARAM style where teams are just trying to get control over the center section of the map. Jimian's just going to go ahead and clear out what he can on the top side of the map.
Yeah, I feel like this slow and steady attitude that suddenly has been apparent in the lower bracket is because it's a do or die. Either could go two things. Either be very interesting when it comes to the draft, just pull all of your tricks up out of your sleeve, or this kind of playstyle, which is definitely both on the checklist. As for Berjaya, they will be satisfied in scaling into, especially they're relying on this auto attack Varus build. In the meantime, though, for HKA, again, we mentioned they have that buffer in the form of Jimian.
Enzo gonna Joe forward, though, and Wing gets caught out again. Chain of Corruption's used, and they finally take down the tree. In comes Call of the Forge God, able to find a double knockup. Jimian almost gets targeted there by the Scatter of the Week. Not able to find it, though, as Berjaya find another pick. What are they able to get, though?
Extra gold, more gold for Enzo here. Let's take a look at this again. Wing was so far forward, and because of the Bork, at least managed to slow Wing down for an easy chain of corruptions. Unfortunately, I think Wing held onto that flash too long to try and bait out more Berjaya dragons moving forward. And in the meantime, Minji does have that Luden, so that's a really, really nice spike to chunk down Eminem and Jimian immediately, and even possibly 3Z when he tries to do a dive.
Well, now you got to start factoring in here for Berjaya. We've hit level 13 for Ozzy. He's getting his upgrades. Now has both of his in his inventory, and he's going to start sharing some of the love here, likely, to the rest of his squad, as he'll likely upgrade K2's Bork. And now that efficiency is going to start taking a bit of a factor here, as fortunately for Hong Kong Attitude, I do have to say I do favor the Varus a little bit more, especially the fact that it's K2. But we'll have to see whether or not Eminem can continue to step up to the plate here on this Senna and help carry.
Yeah, absolutely. Considering that you will eventually gather a lot of souls and able to scale air quote infinitely as you pick that up as the game progresses. And Jimian, well, eventually he will fall off, but that's the perfect trajectory, as you will eventually rely on Eminem later. And as well as the thick heals coming from the Senna pick, especially during the later game fights where Minji will probably decide to poke Jimian.
Oh, there's a double knockup, though, from the flag drag. Very nicely done. Enzo gets safety, and now Chili tries to go in, and that is K2 blowing everything he has in his kit. Not able to land onto a single target, though. HK are able to find themselves a kill.
Nicely done by HKA here, being very insanely active.
Ooh,
Enzo!
Aggressive. Enzo, though, gets caught out, and 3Z finds himself the target. Unfortunately, K2 needs to finish him off. K2, 3Z gets himself the safety. K2 doesn't even launch a piercing arrow to try and finish him off. And there you go. Finds another kill, and that was a risky one coming out here from 3Z.
And I'm liking these highlight plays coming from 3Z. Again, we did mention that he's been mostly on the utility, so this is such a refreshing, that's a beautiful route on towards Berjaya Dragons, and this gave away that go signal for Hollow to initiate that Cataclysm and separate the rest of the members. And what comes after that is a nicely done camp. Berjaya Dragons, no vision on this part of the map, very brave to move forward, and look at this assassination. The pillar did not help, unfortunately. There's the shroud, and the heal coming from Eminem really did help. And the auto attack to the minion managed to get that level up, and as well as an additional HP.
Very nicely done here by HK, as they're able to find a couple kills as well as multiple turrets now, as Berjaya yet to be able to actually crack anything on the map. Infernal Drake is going to be started up here, though. We'll see if Hollow's able to go for the steal. 50-50. It does go on over to Enzo. Flash not used. It is going to be the teleport from Minji, if anybody else. And there we go. Berjaya are able to at least claim the Infernal as we get ourselves pretty much squared up here, minus the 1,500 gold lead in favor of HKA.
Yeah, this is going to slow down the appearance again of the Elder Drake, just as the previous games that we've had so far in the first series. And for HKA, they have a 2,000 gold lead, more or less, and they'll be satisfied again with this position in the map. Essence Reaver already completed on top of this Bork, so this is a really, really nice spike, especially for certain objectives, or maybe even trying to get sneaky plays whenever Berjaya Dragons decide to push waves, especially in the middle. That's good entryway for Hollow to start the fights, either on that Raptor camp or from that near that Wolf camp, as we've seen in the middle engage.
So for now, it's going to be Berjaya having to back off. 4 minutes for Infernal. We do have to deal with the fact that we also have a Baron on the map. And both teams can actually take it pretty effectively. You got Borks on both sides. K2 has his upgraded Borks up, which is a nice sight to see. For this Varus was a little bit flustered, it looked like, in the previous team fight. He ended up using a lot of his skills, and oh no, Berjaya,
Oh,
they
dear.
don't have vision. Enzo's gonna get caught up. Chili ends up using his Devour immediately. Chain of Corruption trying to go through the backside of the fight, and Paulo can't finish off the Varus. K2 is still alive. The slow is there. Now HKA, they're the ones that have to start running. 3Z looking to find a flank over towards the side, and he goes on to Minji. Can he find a target? Yes, he can. And K2 is also gonna get taken down, and 3D is able to keep his team in this game. And now Chili is starting to run, and it's off the heels of this Akali's. It's going to be a triple kill for the top lane.
That was wild. 3Z was actually spotted by Ozzy. Unfortunately, this ninja can just pass through everyone with those dashes and with all the mobility in the world, and just eliminated the prime targets. 3Z did his job right, and with that said, now they're attacking this Baron with only Ozzy the only one left to try and annoy HKA.
Yeah, hoping maybe a miracle steal. It's a bit hard to really do anything. Unfortunately, that is going to be the end case here. It is HKA will be able to secure Baron buff on all 5 of their members, as Polo and Wing have been able to respawn. And all right, 3Z coming to play here in this playoff matchup against Berjaya with this Akali. We'll take another look here at how this one all started in the mid lane.
Now let's take a look at this again. Yeah, it was definitely that party brush that HKA managed to set up. Enzo walking into a trap. There's a Cataclysm. Holo had to zone out important members, and this what gave Berjaya Dragons that confidence. Unfortunately, as you can see, Enzo was low. K2 already used a flash, and that was the go signal for 3Z, despite Ozzy trying his best to zone out this Akali.
Yeah, we saw there K2 was just caught in the mess afterwards, and the chase potential for this team is pretty devastating when you got a Lucian and an Akali. So there you go, a triple kill for 3Z is a bit disgusting, to say the very least here. So for Berjaya, the question now becomes, how are they going to be able to respond here to this now Baron buff that's going to last for another 2 minutes?
Good thing though, they do have at least the piercing arrow for wave clear. They've got the dark spears coming from Minji on this Syndra. Her Ludens is already upgraded. She's still going, he's still on his way as 3Z might.
There we go. Call the Force God into the Chain of Corruption, and 3Z is just going to get CC'd to death. Has nowhere to run. Because, well, mid lane as well as the bot lane is being pushed on in. Berjaya are trying to go for one member when they're losing turrets across the map.
So many members are invested just to eliminate and get that shutdown gold away from 3Z. Yeah, unfortunately they lose not only 1 but 2 towers, and Berjaya Dragons will definitely miss those, as again the base is slowly getting whittled down by HKA, and there's a lot of value over this Baron buff. And now that they got the reset, they're gonna walk and march back with 25 seconds on the clock for this Inferno.
Yeah, and you got 20 seconds now for HKA if they really want to try and set that up. They got a lot of vision. Let's take a look back towards this top lane where it's a Call the Forge God, Chain of Corruption, and everything blowing on 3Z.
And yeah, that is an easy kill, but also for HKA, easy kill over those towers. So for Berjaya, they will have to try and be careful whenever they walk into these dark spaces.
See here, HKA subtly setting this up. See here what Enzo wishes to do. Not a whole lot of vision. Puts down his pillar to try and do what he can. Still a Baron buff they have to deal with for the next 20 seconds, so HKA should be able to push that back. Holo maybe thinking about going for a play here. Sides against it. Now Enzo puts down the frozen ground. 3Z is also looking for a big flank if he could find it. Maybe inside of Berjaya, trying to tunnel in as, guess what, HKA are taking this dragon at this point. Berjaya are a bit lit to the party, and now, let's see, does the engage come out from Berjaya? Call the Forge God knocks up Wing, but that's pretty much it. 3Z still looking for it. Cullen comes out into the rest of the squad, and now Senna ultimate is able to get a decent chunk of damage. K2 goes golden, but 3Z is able to find Minji once again. Now, unfortunately for Berjaya, the game is starting to fall apart as 3Z keeps finding his ideal target, finishes off Chili, and that's a double kill for the Akali.
Oh, Chili didn't even manage to pop his white shield, gray shield rather. Oh dear, oh my, HKA just really surprising everybody in predictions as well, because when we look at the talent pool voting for their predictions, no one voted for HKA, and it was full on Berjaya. And you can see for the Dragons, it's slowly falling apart. The big question is whether or not they're able to come back from this huge deficit.
Yeah, it starts off here with a lot of good damage coming on through, but Minji keeps getting caught out here by 3Z.
Exactly. And it was one of those things where you saw the dragon was already being taken very quickly, but Enzo wanted to take a chance and move a little bit forward, and because of that late retreat, it gave HKA the chance to start a fight. And you did mention earlier the chase potential from the squad is just insane. So for Berjaya, especially your carries that don't have a lot of mobility options will struggle.
There we go. Berjaya, unfortunately, now sits down 6,000 gold. Infernal Soul is going to be an option here for Hong Kong Attitude as well. They also can likely start positioning toward the next Baron respawn. Which now for Berjaya, it's, all right, can we protect K2 during these fights? Unfortunately, the last 2 times it's been a no, as Chili has been able to get the Devour off correctly, and also forcing K2 to blow his stopwatch pretty early in the match, and won't have it for a later game team fight.
Yeah, and it was definitely the cause from earlier where Chili was quite separated and wasn't able to devour properly, just as you mentioned. But at least for Minji, there's stopwatch available. But for K2, since they opted for triple teleports and 0 exhausts, it's going to be quite difficult to try and deny 3Z's dive when the team fight comes.
See, Berjaya still trying to hunt him down. 3Z gets himself back to safety. Pingzo coming out, because guess what? In top lane, it's Jimian. Free pushing that has dissolution as they get themselves another tower on the map.
And for Berjaya, they've struggled to try and start fights, and it is quite understandable considering when we look at the composition, no one can exactly start a fight here with only relying on your carries to have to move forward, either a prime Scatter the Weak or a Chain of Corruptions. The pillar can be that chain that will start those main engage with Minji and K2, but again, you gotta be near them. And for HKA, it's a little bit telegraphed with their mobility. They're able to escape that range of danger.
So now, Baron started to be set up here by HKAs. They're gonna go ahead and push in the vision line on the top side of the map. So Berjaya are gonna be the ones that have to go in blindly, and it's a bit of an awkward setup here for the Dragons. How do they try and find themselves back into this game? There's so much just hard engage they have used onto multiple members of HKA, but if they don't find the right target, 3Z will come back and easily rip apart their backline, as he currently sits 6-1-3 on the Akali.
And Leandri is already completed as well with Zanya, so that a lot of more dives are still about to come for the Berjaya Dragons, and a lot of safety as well for 3Z in particular. Good thing though, Zanya's completed for Minji, so if ever 3Z decides to dive on Cinder, they're setting up their own.
Another Chain of Corruptions used onto Wing here. Call the Forge God is going to come on down with the Spell Shield, and unfortunately, they're just locked up in the pit. K2 is able to get himself to safety. Jimian going for a very wide flank, and unfortunately, HKA maybe a bit late to the party, but now in comes the rest of the squad in on top of K2. 3Z is able to find his multiple targets, and he just dances on the corpses of Berjaya Dragons. Jimian gets himself a double kill, and there you go. The ace is there for HKA, as Ozzy cannot find himself safety, and with super minions in the mid lane, that could be the game.
Super minions, 50-second death timers on the side of the Dragons. This is definitely game. HKA is wildin' right now and surprising the whole audience, and as well as the caster team.
And like that, HKA are going to be pretty happy with themselves. They've been able to actually find themselves a victory, and they defy destiny, it seems, here, as they're able to take game 1 over Berjaya.
There's been a lot of plot twists recently. That's gonna feel really, really good for HKA, considering that they had to fight for that last spot in playoffs and had to knock Liab out, and having to battle Nova as well at the first day of their playoffs, and now getting another upset as they've defeated Berjaya Dragons in game number 1.
Yeah, it's I have to ask, you know, where did 3Z come from? It's been a while since we got to see something like this, as him carrying on the Akali was absolutely disgusting. And oh, give me more of that 3Z. Jeez, that was just nasty. The other question though, it's always been to Berjaya, and now the fact that HK have been able to actually take the first game, I'm actually shocked. I thought at least the first game would be for sure in the favor of Berjaya. I thought maybe HK might be able to adjust, but draft-wise, it was just they used everything on this Maokai, which Wing isn't the threat. He's not the threat. He's only a tree.
Yeah, and they wanted to make a quick pickup, especially I think they really heavily relied on maybe that subjugate to soften up the tree, or maybe even on hit for the shred. Unfortunately, he's a little bit tanky, and even though he fell down, he fell through battle, all the carries are still alive, and therefore it's just cleanup time for 3Z.
Yeah, so Jimmy and 3Z are able to claim the victory here for HKA as they now take the first game over Berjaya, and that's one hell of a way to start off our series here, as I expect, you know, maybe HK be the team that would, you know, try and draw this out for a very long time, but no. Given one opening, they are able to find their opportunities to close out this game, and you gotta give it to K2. He tried his best on that Vars with 31,000 damage, but that's just not enough, it seems.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder what Berjaya is going to do, because it felt like they were a little bit lax when it comes to, I'm not very sure when it comes to the draft. Maybe the early game, assuming that, okay, HK is probably not going to do anything because they're the type of team that likes that, you know, 35 to 45 minute games, and probably will just fight it out 5v5. Them and us. Unfortunately, that was not the plan of HKA, and just really surprised Berjaya Dragons. And again, they completely did a nice air quote personality change, which definitely caught Berjaya Dragons off guard.
Yeah, so for HKA, question now, MVP. I think this is an easy MVP just based off the flashy plays we saw. Yeah, it's going to be 3Z on the Akali here for HKA.
I love the heart symbol. 716 on the Akali has been shining, has been dancing in this game, and it's so refreshing to see, because we did mention at the beginning of this series where 3Z was either on the Ornn, maybe on the set sometimes, and not exactly on the assassin or playmaking carries, or assassins rather, in that top side of the map.
There on the side of HK, they'll be pretty happy with their first victory in the series, needing only one more if they want to continue their climb back up through the losers bracket. So yeah, what a way to start off this series, especially for the side of HK. I don't think anyone expected this from this squad.
Absolutely. Again, if we look at the predictions, it's all dragons, 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 and none of the casting team voted for HKA, and this is actually an absolute delight. And it's just one of those things where there's another plot twist in the playoffs, and maybe even another best of 3, or the third game might be on our way for tonight.
Yeah, so now that question becomes here. Can Berjaya try and turn this one around, considering the fact that they were taken down? Honestly, relatively pretty strong overall, so we'll have to see on the side of Berjaya what they have planned in store. We're going to go ahead, though, and take a short break. When we come back, it is going to be Game 2 between Hong Kong Attitude and Berjaya Dragons, so don't go anywhere. We'll see you quite shortly.